After a big day on the campaign trail, I want to bring in Sky News political editor Andrew Clennell, who's been down on the New South Wales South Coast today, but we'll get to that in a moment. Andrew, I want to get your thoughts on the most recent news poll. Both parties gained a point in their primary. Scott Morrison has increased his lead over the Labor leader as preferred Prime Minister, but neither are where they need to be to win. Although it's tougher for the Libs than Labor because they've got baked-in Green preferences on the left. I've said this regularly on the show. Elections are won or lost in this middle fortnight of the campaign. They're neck and neck now. How do you see it?
It does seem to me like a lot of people are reluctant to vote for Scott Morrison, but Anthony Albanese hasn't given them reason enough to vote for him, so that's got to be a concern for Labor. And we also saw that before the start of the campaign, their primary was at 41. It dropped to about 38 once the campaign kicked off, and dropped a couple of points after his unemployment gaffe. So I think the trend isn't Labor's friend, but the government's just not getting that primary. Now, they could do so in the last week when people decide we're not convinced by Labor, better the devil you know. And I've seen that many times, as have you. That's what would make me a little worried if I was Labor. But I wouldn't be that assured on the coalition side at all, because the primary is not shifting their way. And they would have to have 39 primary at least to have majority government hope, I would have thought. They're at 35 consistently.
Well, this is also the opportunity for the government, right? They need to articulate the risk of a Labor vote. At the moment, I'd argue as a Conservative, they're not giving their base a reason to vote for the government. And they're not giving that swinging voter, the undecided voter that both camps are fighting for at the moment, the government's not giving them a reason to vote against Labor, which is what they had at the last election in 2019 with the hit on retirees, the stealth taxes elsewhere in the economy. So that's the challenge. And again, I make the point, it's a bit like a foot race, right? The middle of the campaign is where you want to seize momentum, and if it's neck and neck, get ahead and hope you can hold that running into the 21st of May. That's where you're absolutely right to point to this campaign launch and see whether, you know, a week at home in the basement, the Labor leader can pull one out.
Yeah, and look, let's not forget pre-polling starts, I think, next week too. So people are actually casting ballots. So that's another reason that middle part's a lot more important than it used to be. Although I understand what you're saying. I still think there'll be some sort of last-minute government hit on Labor in the last week, like we saw in the New South Wales campaign. No one's denied to me that's going to happen. They're storing something up in terms of attack. Labor has its attack plans on the government too. They're going to go hard negative.
Talk to me about this Pacific announcement from Labor today. The Prime Minister heavily critical about it on radio in particular. Here's the PM.
What they're putting out today, the Labor Party, is basically a continuation of all the things that we're currently doing, with one exception. They think the way to solve the problem in the Solomon Islands is to send in the ABC. I mean, it's farcical. When their answer to solving the Solomon Islands problem is to have Q&A in Honiara. I don't think that's a true reflection or an understanding of the challenges that we face there.
I thought if this was a big push by Labor, it was pretty light on. What did you think, Andrew?
They're taking on the coalition in what they perceive to be their own ground. They're saying we're better on foreign policy than Scott Morrison. He talks a big game. He hasn't delivered. He's had this Solomon's trip up. The Liberal strategists don't mind talking about this every day, because they think the more they're talking about China, the more they can make it an issue, the more people are likely to vote Conservative.
Well, more China today from Richard Marles, another headline from Sharry Markson, this time referencing his praise of Xi Jinping and China's human rights record. Not much of a response today from the Labor deputy. This isn't going away, is it?
Well, he's under siege, isn't he? But I think the most damaging story was the first one Sharry had around recent comments. I think Labor's already put out a series of comments favourable to China from Scott Morrison and Alex Hawke and the like from that 2018-17 period. So I think Richard Marles has a bit more of an excuse on this occasion, but it certainly has damaged him, and one of the reasons he's not front and centre of the campaign.
Yeah, but you've got a damaged leader You've got on the economic front at the very least, and boats, and now you've got a damaged deputy. You've got an almost non-existent defence shadow. You've got a wounded Christina Keneally out there as your Border Protection would-be minister if you win. They're not blessed with talent.
Well, you should be the one delivering the lines for them, I think, Peter, as you probably have suggested to them in the past in your time in opposition, because I don't see a message as clear as the one you just gave coming from the government. Maybe they'll borrow the attack lines for tomorrow.
Well, pay attention, hey? Pay attention. Hey, now you're in Gilmore today. This is the seat held currently by the Labor Party. Former New South Wales Transport Minister Andrew Constance. He's running for the Liberal Party, hopes to end up in Canberra. How's he travelling?
It was interesting that he's campaigning on local roads, and that's all I heard about when we were door knocking, when I saw him door knocking this morning. People are just worried about their local issues. And Scott Morrison, as well as attacking Bill Shorten on franking credits and negative gearing and all the rest, he had all his local candidates with their roundabout promises and their roads promises and the like. And from what I saw, it's very effective. No one out there talking about China and the Solomons. Not necessarily happy with Morrison. Don't think much of Albanese at all, but just want things fixed around here. But what really struck me, and I think there are some smart voters in this seat, was the woman who said, I'll wait till the last minute, see who's likely to win, and then vote for that party, because the party that's in government, if they have an MP here in Gilmore, they're more likely to get something done for our area, and that seemed pretty sensible to me.
That perhaps is a reaction from that voter about the fact that the current incumbent is Labor, the government in Canberra's coalition, and perhaps she's disappointed that not enough's been done. We'll see if you can capitalise. Andrew Clennell, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Peter.